Good morning. You're watching a remote broadcast of Businessworld Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. It's now 10:31 a.m. this Thursday in Manila. We are over an hour into the trading day. Let's go straight first to our top story. The International Monetary Fund sees a deeper slump for the Philippines this year amid the global economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic, which now appears to be worse than initially expected. The IMF is now projecting a contraction of 3.6% for the country's GDP, a reversal from its baseline 6.3% growth forecast given last year and 0.6% growth outlook in April. The lender's forecast is worse than the government's contraction outlook of 2 to 3.4%. If realized, the IMF's estimate will be the worst since the 6.9% contraction recorded in the year 1985. The IMF representative to the Philippines says the downward revision can be attributed mostly to larger than expected supply disruptions related to the health crisis, as well as weaker demand from external trading partners. The country's GDP shrunk by 0.2% in the first quarter with the eruption of the volcano and the early impact of the virus. The IMF also painted a more bleak picture for the world economy. It now sees global GDP to contract by 4.9%, worse than its initial forecast of a 3% contraction. The IMF says economies around the world should fine-tune their response to the pandemic to cushion the economic fallout. Back home, the IMF says the Philippines is headed to a, quote, slower recovery as it sees GDP to grow by 6.8% in 2021, lower than its initial estimate of 7.6%. The IMF said this is due to continued distancing measures, greater damage to supply chain, and the challenges faced by businesses that need to deal with health and safety and hygiene practices. The IMF, though, says the Philippines was equipped with strong macroeconomic fundamentals when the pandemic started, which it said had provided some safeguards for the economy. The IMF says timely policies will help the country to survive the crisis. The Monetary Board will meet today for the policy meeting. Okay, ahead of that policy meeting by the central bank, let's see how shares at least are moving at the start of the morning trade this Thursday. And I can tell you right now, things are not looking well for the local index. We are continuing that slump that we have been seeing for the past 2 days here. If you try to take a look at the charts right here, you'd see the index, at least for today, is now down close to 0.7%. We did see local shares going back to that 6,100 level yesterday, and now we are at 6,148.46, as you can see right here. Also, Wednesday, again, like what I mentioned earlier, we saw the index declining by 1.8%, still mainly due to COVID-19 fears. Japet Tanchanko of PhilStocks is saying that happened as the country posted really its highest single-day jump in cases of 1,150 cases. Is saying if the rise extends, then restrictions might most likely stay, or worse, what's going to happen is that we might actually see restrictions going back or reverting at least to stricter ones, which he says will aggravate economic damages. This status quo is still preventing really the economy to recover fully, even if we have already eased restrictions in a way. And that, according to him, is weighing down on investor sentiment. Adding to the pressure, you have foreign investors still selling. Net foreign selling persisting. Outflows, in fact, recorded yesterday, it was at 2 billion pesos. Now, from there, let's have a look at our leaders and laggards for the day here. Let me just refresh this one for a bit. You have Ayala Land leading the pack here of our gainers here. They are up 1 9/10%. First Gen, likewise, not far behind. They are edging higher, 1 4/10%. Recall, of course, that the Singapore's Valor's tender offer ended yesterday. In fact, we did see First Gen increasing by as much as 2% yesterday, really extending those gains that we have been seeing from the stock the past days here. Other gainers here, you have Bloomberry. They are up over 8%. On the other hand, on the losing spectrum here, you have the likes of Metro Pacific. They are now in the red, down 3 6/10%. Security Bank, likewise, also in the negative territory here, down over 3%. But a lot of other things here concerning our big stocks here. For one, some of them aren't coming out of the crisis unscathed. The likes of Cebu Pacific here, they are on the process of finalizing their right sizing plans. They did, however, tell Business World, there are no final figures yet as to how many employees will be laid off, but they are saying that the transformation has to happen to make sure that business becomes sustainable given expected changes in travel demand and consumer behavior. This as they try to keep their transport services affordable and accessible. They are seeing recovery in the travel space and the travel sector to happen at a longer period. Yesterday, you have Cebu Pacific going down by as much as 0.75%, and things are still not faring well here for the carrier here. They are down by 3 and 6 tenths of 8% at the start of Thursday trade. They are still priced at 40 pesos a piece, as you can see here. After that March 19, though, the stock really failing to manage at least to increase back up to how they were at least pre-COVID times. Now, talking about recovery in aviation, Airbus is calling on the government to communicate safety measures being carried out in air travel so as at least to rebuild confidence in flying. Anand Stanley, the president of Airbus for Asia Pacific, is noting, that the Philippines is a vibrant market with strong reach domestically and internationally. Airbus, according to them, their aircraft is equipped with advanced air ventilation and filtration systems with air renewed every 2 to 3 minutes. According to them as well, their filters can remove almost 100% of particles from the air. Furthermore, according to Stanley, they are expecting recovery in aircraft demand to actually depend on the public's confidence to fly again. This as they revise downwards their production rates. Hence, of course, that's why they're calling on government authorities to at least communicate the safety measures that they are implementing in air travel. Now, off to a different story here. This time, dollar reserve setting new highs here, at least at the end of May. Our buffer standing at $93.29 billion as of May. That's a 9% jump year on year and a 2.6% increase month on month. That's already beyond the BSP's target $90 billion reserve for 2020. According to the central bank, the rise reflects the national government's foreign currency deposits with the BSP of proceeds from its issuance of Republic of the Philippines global bonds and the BSP's foreign exchange operations. However, that buffer was somehow offset by foreign currency withdrawals by the government to pay off foreign currency debt. The BSP is saying the buffer is enough, though, to cushion the local economy from any external shocks. According to Mike Ricafort, the GIR could still post new highs due to government borrowings. On the other hand, Carlo Asuncion of Union Bank is saying that the inflow has been fueling the strength of the local currency and positive perception rather about the country's financial strength standing. Looking, however, at how our local currency is looking at least at the start of Thursday here, you'd see here weakening a bit here. The peso, Asian peso, is now at 50 spot 025 to the greenback. Now, still on the BSP, they are again, like what you mentioned earlier, meeting later today. But this time, they're also telling lenders to ramp up safeguards against scammers. This as fraudsters continue to take out victims' funds in various financial products. That includes deposit or electronic money accounts, credit cards, and remittance services as the modes to fraudulently funnel out funds. According to them, policies should be in place. That includes boosting digital literacy among consumers, at the same time responding immediately to complaints via social media platforms, websites, email, or even text messages. At the same time, they are calling financial institutions to strengthen their cybersecurity. Now, talking about banks, one lender did not just survive the pains of the first quarter, but their earnings, in fact, also jumped big time. I'm talking about Robinson's Bank here. Net income soaring by 778% for the first 3 months of the year to 352 million pesos. That's boosted primarily by higher operating income, inching by 65% to 1.7 billion pesos. They are expanding their business activities with significant increases in provision for credit losses as well. Recall that they are setting their capex at 877.7 million pesos. Primarily, that's for branch expansion and IT projects as well. However, they are pushing back on their 10 billion peso bond program this year. Depending on economic conditions, they're targeting at least a 1 billion profit rather for the year. And at the same time, they are hoping to upgrade to a universal bank level. At the same time, they are setting their sights on an initial public offering by 2024. Now, before we wrap this up, let's have a quick check once again of how things are looking for the index here. Again, we are still down 0.5%, still at the 6100 level, 6156 to be exact. Now, here are other stories we're watching this morning. The Philippine Star reports that Wirecard's former COO, Jan Marsalek, may be in the country. Immigration records show that Marsalek only stayed in the country for 3 days in March. But Justice Chief Menardo Guevara says there are indications that the Austrian national may still be staying in the Philippines. Guevara has ordered the Immigration Bureau to conduct investigations to determine Marsalek's whereabouts. He also directed the NBI to investigate certain individuals who are reportedly involved in the $2.1 billion Wirecard case in Germany. This after small amounts of money reportedly entered local bank accounts of a person in the Philippines who has links with Wirecard. Guevara says they can't say yet if these transactions are involved in money laundering, since the amounts in question are small and investigations are still ongoing. All these developments are escalating the country's probe of billions in cash missing on Wirecard's books, which has now spawned a global accounting scandal. Now, on to other stories. The financial department vows to keep spending fiscally responsible in case of a second wave of coronavirus infections in the country. Secretary Sonny Dominguez says the government has raised 1.2 trillion pesos in net domestic borrowing to cover our budget deficit, which is expected to be up to 9% of this year's GDP. However, Dominguez admitted that tax revenue remains to be the largest income source of the government. He expects collections to recover with 2019 income taxes due to be paid by the end of this month and value-added tax coming from online sales. On the other hand, the budget department is preparing a larger national budget for 2021 at 4.3 trillion pesos. Budget Secretary Wendell Avisado says that the spending plan will focus on providing income opportunities to those most affected by the pandemic. The Philippine government has pledged to sign the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership by November 15. This is a trade pact between all 10 ASEAN countries and trade partners like Australia, China, New Zealand, Japan, and South Korea. The Trade Department says this would give the country a broader platform to source materials and export products in bigger markets. Plus, it would also encourage investment in manufacturing, energy, and technology. However, civil groups are pushing to halt negotiations, citing lack of transparency on the trade agreement's provisions. After the government put in place lockdown measures across the country, one of the first sectors that had to make the transition is the contact center industry, sending thousands of BPO workers home to work remotely. Now, how has the industry adopted so far? Let's ask one of the big players, TaskUs. Let's talk to Victoria Alcachupas. She is a Vice President of Business Development, Strategic Growth, and Global People Branding for TaskUs. Good morning, Victoria. Nice to have you
Morning.
here with us on the show. Okay, so
Yes,
how the transition like for TaskUs? Was it immediate and was it something that you have planned for beforehand?
we were monitoring the pandemic as early as February. And when the president of the Philippines actually announced it, we're very much ready and prepared. 1 to 2 hours after that big announcement of lockdown, the company is already prepared. Together with the executive team, they made the decision that we're going to shut down our office 100% and that we're going to transition everybody from work from home. So it was abrupt, but then again, we planned for it ahead of time because we've been monitoring this pandemic long before the announcement.
And since you've been monitoring the crisis long before, quarantine measures were actually announced, does that mean as well that remote work is a setup that you have been studying at least prior to the announcement of quarantine measures?
Yes, TaskUs have been testing our work from home capability as early as February of 2019, and then we had our testing as early as January, February of this year. So yes, we come prepared for this. Yes.
Okay, now you did mention 100% of your contact center agents were required at least to work from home. Does that mean as well that your admin or office support was actually also asked to at least do the same setup? Or did you have at least a certain percentage of your employees still coming to the office?
No, 100% of our employees, regardless if it is teammates or admin, are actually all working from home.
Mhm. One primary concern here, I mean, the transfer to a work from home setup or a remote work setup, tech infrastructure transfer. Is this something that how did you manage exactly to actually answer this challenge?
From the announcement itself, we ask our teammates to bring their gadgets at home, their computers. We prepared it immediately for them, and we provided shuttle service. But of course, we have more than 16,000 employees, and all at that one night, we have to make sure that they have their gadgets. So even our leaders actually stepped up and they themselves provided shuttle service for those who were not able to bring home their gadgets immediately, or if they're off at that time, we actually delivered it to them right to their doorstep. So our number one priority is the safety of our teammates. Second to that is the business. So servant leadership was actually very evident on this entire process that we have experienced. So it's a collaborative effort of our teammates, our leaders, and of course our clients to be able to bring those gadgets and deliver it to our teammates.
Okay, safe to say a lot of businesses had to actually cut down on jobs because of
Yeah.
the crisis. Earlier, we were reporting about how Cebu Pacific is now actually laying off employees. Was this somehow the case as well for TaskUs? Or were employees laid off, or is everyone still working at full capacity?
Yes, we're working on full capacity. Actually, you'd be surprised that from March 15 until June 15th, we've hired total of 4,000 new employees. And for June to July, our open requisition to hire is actually about 2,000 employees. And looking at our pipeline, it's about 7,000 more that we're hiring for the rest of the year. And looking back, because of our ability to transition to work from home, we actually won 10 more logos or 10 more clients for us. And that was actually very helpful for us to be stable in times of crisis. And although, of course, there are some clients, because of the nature of their business, like travel and transportation, or um, retail, that actually have low volume right now, but because we have complementary clients that are actually booming right now, like food delivery, social media, streaming services, that actually balance out the loss or the decline in headcount, and then we just shift them to other programs. So it's very unfortunate that those companies are actually retrenching or losing their employees, but it's actually the other way around for us.
So very interesting to know that there's still a high demand here for
Yes.
contact center agents, despite working at least working on a remote setup. Can you enlighten us a bit more as to where from which industries these clients are coming from, at least?
Of course, similar to what we're experiencing in the Philippines, food delivery is number one necessity in the US, and so is grocery delivery. And social media, since everybody is actually online, so there are big demands for that. And also streaming services, everybody is watching on their home, so that's actually booming. And For travel and transportation, specifically those that would under tracking or fintech, because people now want to be contactless and wants to do it online. So retail in terms of online shopping. So those are the key, and then of course healthcare are the key industries that are booming right now that actually help with the growth of TaskUs.
All right. So most of the clients coming from the quote unquote essential services, at least in
Yes.
this time of the pandemic. But
Yes.
question now is, did you have to make adjustments in your agreements with clients, taking into account, of course, the limits and information that your employees can handle off-site?
Yes, as early as February, we are actually modifying our agreement with our clients. We're talking to them what needs to be changed or edit in terms of our agreement, in terms of our delivery, KPIs, and all. Um, we are very much on top of security, confidentiality. So that's our number one. Um, Focus right now to make sure that this work from home setup is actually effective, not just for us, but for our clients, especially.
Now, how do you ensure data security given this work from home scheme? I mean, that's primarily one of the concerns of employers here, especially when they try to make actually that shift to digital transformation.
Yes, it's actually so many ways that we've changed on our login process, on our identification, on the things that they can see from their screen. Because from the regular setup of the operations, we are 100% paperless. But then again, we cannot implement that since they're at home, right? So we have changed so many setup on the IT infrastructure, on the app, on the login credentials, just to make sure that we maintain security. And it's not just us; it's also a collaboration with our clients.
Okay, normal perception is BPOs are densely occupied in terms of the physical workspace. Now, with the new normal adopting stricter health protocols, do you see TaskUs reopening your office spaces soon?
Unlike other BPOs, we're not rushing back to go back to the office. Not that our clients do not demand it. It's just that we're people first, and our clients actually understand that. We are observing what others are actually doing and learning from whatever mistakes or things that they're actually doing right. But right now, we're encouraging our clients not to rush back to the office, with the exception, of course, with critical accounts or clients that needs to be done in the office. But we don't foresee our accounts or our sites to be in full 30 or 50% capacity as mandated by the government. We don't see it to be as high as that.
Okay, but definitely a hybrid option is in the works. Maybe not 50%, but at least a smaller percentage or a smaller share of your workforce coming physically to your offices.
Yes, yes, but we always take into consideration. We're not forcing any of our teammates to go back. It's by need and case to case basis. Yes.
Okay, so given that, do you see a work from home setup a viable option for TaskUs, even once quarantine measures are lifted?
Yes, for us, work from home is here to stay. As World Health Organization foresee that this is something that is going to stay for the next 4 to 5 years. So I think beyond the pandemic, our series, which is our work from home offering, is here to stay. Yeah.
But question is, do we have actually the country at least? Do we have a good environment for that? We're talking about connectivity, where the
Yes.
country still pretty much lags. At the
Mhm.
same time, for a period during the quarantine, at least the onset of the quarantine, there were power disruptions. So, do we actually have a good setup, a good environment to actually support a work from home scheme?
Actually, that's very challenging. We've been doing lots of focus group and also analyzing the efficiency and effectivity of the work from home setup, and also doing lots of social media listening. Other than connectivity, of course, the distraction of the family. Mental health, efficiency of working at home, and lack of having a work office. Those are common things that we're actually looking at. I'd say for now, this is effective versus risking our employees' safety and health by going back to the office. Will it stay and will it be stable? Right now, we're looking on different vendors for IT infrastructure to resolve this. And then we also changed some of the channels that we support. So let's say if we support voice before or we're heavy on voice on certain accounts, we ask clients if it is more effective, if it is less bandwidth in the internet, if we do back office or chat or email, just to augment what is missing in terms of IT infrastructure and bandwidth.
All right, things looking good for TaskUs. It seems you are adapting well, at least to the pandemic, with more growth outlook in the offing, at least for 2020. Thank you very much for your time. Victoria Alcachupas, Vice President of Business Development, Strategic Growth, and Global People Branding over at TaskUs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
All right, let's have a quick check of how our local shares are performing. It is now 10:57 in the morning, still continuing those declines that we did see earlier. In fact, if this should continue on until the end of the trading day, this is going to be our third day of declines here. We are down 0.5% to 6,154.93. Again, the index sustaining that slump here. Let's try to have a check at our leaders and laggards for the day. Let me just quickly refresh this for one. Earlier, we did see Ayala Land leading the pack here, while FGen now is actually leading those gainers. They are up over 2%. Of course, Valor's tender offer did end yesterday. Other gainers here, you have the likes of SM Investments now inching higher by 0.5%. And a few developments here on SM. They are declaring a 5 billion peso cash dividend equivalent to 4 pesos and 25 pesos per share. That is also tantamount to 50% of the parent's net income. This is SM hopes for recovery and for consumer vibrancy to actually return. At the same time, they are beefing up online assets to meet customer needs amid the pandemic. Recall that they are setting 100 million pesos to improve e-commerce platforms to bridge mall tenants to at-home shoppers. Again, looking at the movement of SM, you'd see here the stock starting the day at least on a good footing here. They are up 0.5% to 942 pesos a piece. Now, one property player is also expecting revenues from rents to decline in the coming quarters. I'm talking about Vista Land. That's as net income for the first quarter actually slid 8% to 2.3 billion pesos, with revenues also dropping by 3% to 9.9 billion pesos. This was lockdowns, suspended construction activities, reducing the completion rate of their sold inventories. Revenue from our real estate sales was also down by 11%. According to them, they are expecting their revenue stream from rentals to actually drop further, as tenants are expected to cut short contracts due to mall closures. Looking at how the stock is performing, things not looking good as well for Vista Land here. They are down over 0.25% to 3 pesos and 89 centavos a piece. Now, also, let's have once again a quick check of how things are faring for the local shares here. We are now down 0.6% to 6152.99. Let's see if things are going to pick up, at least as the trading day continues on for the next few hours. And that's a first look into the business day this Thursday, June 25, 2020. Catch us again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News.